Greetings. My name is Jane Packard. I'm chair of the Orchard Commons Committee at the Los Altos History Museum, and I'd like to share with you an exciting story about the rehabilitation of the Los Altos Heritage Orchard. So this is a joint effort between the City of Los Altos and the Los Altos History Museum. And the city has provided financial support, and the museum is coordinating the effort. So the Orchard Commons Committee advises our director, our museum director, Dr. Elizabeth Ward. So first of all, just a word about what do we mean by rehabilitation? Well, my brother just got a knee surgery, and he's in real rehabilitation. His knee is not going to return to what it was like when he was 20 years old. However, it will be more functional and sustain his activity into the future. So it is with orchard rehabilitation. In this presentation, I'll focus on three questions about orchard rehabilitation. What is the Heritage Orchard? How have we started the process of rehabilitation? And why are we going to all this effort? Remember the spring beauty of the orchard in bloom? Well, the Los Altos Heritage Orchard contains 427 trees. They are all an endangered heirloom variety, the Blenheim apricot. Blenheim apricots have fruit that is so sweet and flavorful when it's ripe that it's perfect for drying, which was the technology of the era. However, it doesn't have a good long shelf life, so is not very good for shipping to market. The Heritage Orchard is located at the Los Altos Civic Center. Many of you may recognize the strip that you see driving along San Antonio Road, but a lot of people don't recognize that this 2-acre orchard wraps around City Hall to the Central Commons. Our neighbors are City Hall, the library, and the Youth Center, soon to be remodeled as City Hall Annex. So this heritage orchard was protected by the city as a historical landmark in 1981, and these boundaries were defined in 1991, clarifying that it does not include the 30 apricot trees in the security enclosure of the police station. The orchard was originally planted by J. Gilbert Smith, starting in 1901. He constructed a house for his mother in 1905, eventually extended the size of his orchard to 15 acres. So this orchard was one of tens of thousands of acres of fruit trees in the Santa Clara Valley, which is an economic engine driver at the middle of the 1900s. I heard a story about the city fathers who came to J. Gilbert Smith in 1954 and asked him to sell his property for construction of a new civic center. He pondered the offer and replied, "Only on one condition, that it remains a working orchard in perpetuity so that the next generation knows where their food comes from." At the beginning of 2024, the orchard had declined to only 30% of the trees that were counted in 2006. In this view from the library windows, you can see how many empty sites there were in the rows of trees. Now, the reasons for the decline are complicated. However, one of the major drivers has been climate change. This has motivated us to think about what will be sustainable for the future. And we're told that there will be more severe droughts and storms. And when the trees are stressed, they are more vulnerable to the fungal and bacteria diseases that we have found in the orchard. For example, look at this young tree that was only 3 years old, and it died after the cold, wet winter of 2023. This was due to a bacterial infection called Pseudomonas syringae. It occurred not only in our orchard. Andy Mariani reported losses in his orchard in Morgan Hill, and Charlie Olson reported losses in his orchard in Sunnyvale. There are no effective treatments. The best preventative practices are to grow healthy trees, which is our focus in rehabilitation. Brings us to our second question: how? The museum is contracted with an experienced orchardist to guide us in this process. His name is Terrence Welch, and his company is Orchardscapes. So this rehabilitation process has proceeded in 3 phases. First, we had to determine what was the best design for a drip irrigation system. Second, the dead wood was removed to prepare sites for planting 300 trees. And then third, the drip irrigation system was extended to the entire orchard prior to planting those trees. This is where we've had to depart from tradition in preparing for a sustainable future. So Mr. Smith originally used flood irrigation with water from a well stored in a water tank, as you can visit and look at the museum outdoor agricultural exhibit. However, flood irrigation obviously is no longer feasible. When the water source switched to municipal systems, the orchard was irrigated with sprayer heads attached to pipes. This is the uh, traditional technology still used in many of the agricultural areas, for example, around Gilroy. But this was not sustainable due to the wear of the equipment and the need for water conservation during drought. In response to these challenges, the city installed a precision drip irrigation system. PVC pipes are buried along each row of trees. A valve is attached to a riser at the site of each tree, and then a spiral drip line is attached to the valve and encircles the tree trunk. This means that it delivers the water directly to the roots. The beauty of this design is that the spiral can be expanded as the tree grows. We can also address the unequal water demand of each tree by closing the valves to the mature trees when we're watering the young trees. The mature trees need water less frequently than the young ones. So this design is recommended by UC Davis Extension and the Master Gardeners. Thinking towards the future, we also have an eye to using technology to refine our irrigation schedule. So the Valley Water Mobile Lab has installed soil moisture sensors, and ePlant, which is a startup company here in Los Altos, has installed sensing devices on 7 trees. Basically, the tree sensors will tell us when the trees are thirsty and the irrigation needs to be turned on. And then the soil moisture sensors will tell us when to turn off the irrigation. So enough on conserving water. Now let's turn to making the soil more fertile. Traditionally, the cover crop has been tilled into the soil using a tractor with a disc attachment. Some of you may remember seeing our former orchardist, Phil Deach, on his tractor, tilling the orchard. Phil followed the traditional method of planting trees. Uh, he planted 100 in 2020, right before the COVID shutdown. So those trees were the 3-year-olds that died, didn't make it through the hard, cold winter of 2023. And the way he did it, he used an auger to dig holes in the hard soil. He tossed in a cupful of alfalfa pellets to enhance the soil. But these trees were stressed. When I looked at the roots of the trees, the 3-year-old trees that died, they were curled around the hard edges of the hole as if they had been planted in a clay pot. Sometimes it's important to move on from tradition. Therefore, enhancing soil fertility with better methods has been a priority when new trees were planted this year. Bigger auger made a bigger hole for the roots to expand. Yeah, bigger toys for bigger boys. Compost was mixed with the native soil when each hole was filled, and we are grateful to Mission Trails for providing the compost. You know, feels good to know that what goes into your green bin has come back to cultivate our orchard. Encouraging the growth of healthy roots has also been a priority. So these bare root saplings arrived from northern nurseries in bundles. The city ordered the apricot saplings to be grafted onto a rootstock that is better adapted to our clay soil and is resistant to the oak root fungus that we know is in the orchard. We also used a dip that has been shown to stimulate root growth in apricots. It contains beneficial microorganisms that help to transfer the nutrients from the soil to the roots. Some of you may recognize that term, mycorrhizal inoculant. We take an evidence-based approach to decision making. Our teen volunteers took soil tests using My Soil test kits. They found our soil is severely deficient in nitrogen. So the recommended treatment is an organic fertilizer spread within the root zone of each tree. And this organic fertilizer is called feather meal. It was chosen because it has slow release qualities. In addition, wood chips have been added as arbor mulch along each of the rows of trees. This creates healthy soil in multiple ways. By reducing the evaporation of moisture at the soil interface, it encourages the growth of a healthy community of microorganisms in the soil. Also, it reduces weeds that compete with the tree roots for water. So we will be mowing the cover crop between rows with an eye to providing flowers for pollinators and restoring a beneficial seed bank. Once the trees were planted, it was time to prune them. 3 to 4 strongest branches were chosen for each tree to create the open branch bowl that captures sunlight for fruit production. So the branches are trained by placing these wooden shapers to create the bowl shape. Finally, only sprays approved for use for organic certified crops will be used in our orchard. This is consistent with city policy for parks and other facilities. Not only protects the health of our environment, but also the health of people and their pets. So what are our take-home messages about how we are rehabilitating the orchard? Well, 3 simple guidelines that you can also apply in your home gardens. Conserve water, build soil fertility, and adopt pollinator-friendly practices. Now let's turn to the why question. Enthusiastic support for the Heritage Orchard was expressed when the first sign was installed in 2019. It is definitely an iconic landmark for the city. Some of you may recognize folks in this photo. The primary reason for rehabilitating this historical landmark is to preserve the traditions of the rural heritage of this community. The orchard provides context for the J. Gilbert Smith House, which is designated a California State Point of Historical Interest. The rural heritage includes the spirit of innovation and resilience that was brought to Santa Clara Valley by immigrants and now extends into the ethos of Silicon Valley. Looking forward to a sustainable future, the orchard rehabilitation helps to meet 2 goals in the city's climate action and adaptation plan. We will be increasing water efficiency by using precision irrigation and mulching, which helps to capture stormwater. The orchard is a stormwater sponge. It also sequesters carbon by increasing the tree canopy. I like to think of the trees as breathing in CO2 and breathing out oxygen. In addition, we will be following the recommended path to organic certification by using alternatives to non-organic sprays, namely building the fertility of the soil. We will be providing opportunities for community service for those who want to build a more sustainable future. In line with the mission of the museum, we will be encouraging multi-generational and multicultural activities, the memorable experiences in the present. Hopefully, we'll provide those place-based stories for this generation to share with those who follow. Finally, nearest and dearest to my heart is growing a citizen science program where we encourage inquiry projects by local high school seniors. To summarize the answers to our three questions, in terms of what, the Heritage Orchard is a historic landmark. It's been producing Blenheim apricots for over 120 years in this same location. There have been challenges due to climate change, and our current count is 427 apricot trees. How are we going to do this? 3 guidelines: water conservation, enhancing soil fertility, and using pollinator-friendly options. Why? It symbolizes the rural heritage of innovation and resilience in the Santa Clara Valley. And it also helps us to look forward in terms of thinking about sustainability for this and future generations. If you have any questions or suggestions, I'd like to hear from you. You can email me at orchard@losaltoshistory.org. Thank you for your interest and support for this irreplaceable historical landmark, the Los Altos Heritage Orchard.